And good to see you, Jay.
Hey Eric, we had a chit chat yesterday. So welcome Eric to the CEO's Grind recording. This is a special recording where Eric's coming in to talk to us and to Wesley about his upcoming investment trip to Brazil and what it will entail and a little bit of what the business is about, what he's going to see when he gets there, and really from the perspective of an American, right? And Wesley was mentioning that from Maine, who has been, living and being a successful entrepreneur in São Paulo for the last, I don't know how many years, right? But in Brazil, I think for the last at least 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a cool perspective. So Eric, I'm gonna try to put the slide on the screen so you can talk through it and then go from there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this really sort of all starts with Jay's marketing mission. The fact that he came down to Brazil looking for someone of my profile and then found me and then we became business partners kind of instantly is pretty telling. And what he told me was that, there he said to me, and I really got a group of interesting folks that I know in the States that are also entrepreneurs that have a similar background, that they have maybe some corporate experience and has been successful and maybe don't need to be in the office 9 to 5 anymore, and for a little bit more diversity. And so naturally people look for diversity, I think, in short-term rentals, right? It's sort of become the biggest asset class outside of the stock market, I would say, probably, as you see, the trends around the world. So I think what was interesting to me is when I started thinking about this, I thought, okay, well, my friends here in Sao Paulo have that same profile. So when I thought about, who are the people that I want you to meet, it would definitely be Orlando, who's Mexican, who has a restaurant here and is also involved in real estate, and my friend Ignacio as well, who's Spanish, who has some rentals on the beach. And so I really, when thinking about the itinerary, I tried to embrace the concept of sort of like this entrepreneurial, cultural sort of lifestyle. I really wanted to sort of keep it balanced between, here's what we got for an investment standpoint. It has to be very consistent. Even the investment thesis, we have to believe in Sao Paulo and Brazil and all that good stuff. But then also, I mean, between the two of us, and we have a lot of content to share, I think, with regards to what would be sort of an interesting.
And I want to add one thing to the point you just made, Eric, that I think it's important when I think of encouraging people to invest in Brazil, right, outside of the United States, that it's not just liking the investment package, but it's also understanding the culture, understanding the people, because this is not just like a 101, put the money in the stock market and forget about it, right? There is a whole underwriting process. There's a whole idea of selecting the right city, the right environment, and everything like that. So I think it's also important. That's an important point on that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think the first point is that we'd love the trip to be balanced in between, not necessarily tourism, but let's, because I don't even like tourist areas. Prefer to show you areas that are not tourist areas, that are up and coming, that are interesting to me, that I think are cool to sort of hang out in. So that's one thing. So having a good balance. We throw around the word mentoring a lot, but I think it's basically trying to just give you our perspective as far as, what's our investment thesis? Why do we, Jay and I, feel so strongly about the things that we feel, the way that we do our operations, the way that we do our investment decisions. What we notice is that it's very parallel, even though we do in two different countries. Mentoring really means like, okay, well, what can we show you about how Jay and I come together, our experience, our minds, our entrepreneurial spirit, and what we can show you as far as how we make investment decisions, basically. So not really like mentoring, but more like showing you how we make decisions is what I think may be a better way to say. I did try not to overload the number of locations, but I thought it would be good to show you a few places in Sao Paulo. Basically, what you have in Sao Paulo is sort of like the really old, the new, and the future. And I go like this because it starts in Centro, which is like way up top, right? And then it sort of shifts down to Paulista, which is the original avenue where they had all the coffee plantation. The originally Brazil was very strong coffee, so that's where that came from, that particular street. And then as you move south, when I arrived 20 years ago, it was all about Vila Olimpia. I remember I remember showing up in this neighborhood and seeing that it was being rezoned, and I was looking at it, and now it's funny because I see it every day walking down the street. So, um, the Vila Olimpia business district where we are today very strongly, is right next to Google and Facebook, and all these big companies have all their headquarters on this beautiful tree-lined street that follows the river down here. And you just kind of have to see it to understand what we mean. But for us, I think it's very easy to see the progression of the city, and then how does that affect our business thesis? Because it's hard for us to go back, but it's easy for us to go forward. So in addition to showing you, this where we are currently, I wanted to give you a little bit of a sense for where we might go in the future as well. So you can go back to day one, Jay, if you wouldn't mind. That'd be great.
Okay.
Okay. So we're obviously flexible as far as, what day you might want to arrive. But then when I thought about, okay, well, what do I like to do when people come to São Paulo? It's not a lot of tourist attractions. So on Sundays, it's pretty cool just to sort of hang out on the, big closed, primary avenue on Paulista, as we call it. It's big, it's huge. It's not like New York City Fifth Avenue, but it's Brazil's equivalent. Sort of. It's a very long, wide avenue that's business focused, and on Sundays they close it down, and they have your hippie fair. I mean, I wouldn't personally buy stuff there, but if you're here for, a few days, I'm sure you'd love it. There's lots of places to people roller skating, like that kind of stuff. Really traditional Sunday kind of experience. And I would, definitely pair that with some higher end experiences, maybe like a really, a really nice brunch at some of the hotels, expensive hotels.
I'll say one thing as Paulistano that grew up in that area about Avenida Paulista, like the fact that now they close on Sunday so pedestrians can just walk. It would be similar to closing the Fifth Avenue, right? Like whatever it is, like a main avenue every Sunday so people can just walk the entirety of that avenue just for the residents to make the city more urban. Because before it wasn't that. Sundays
Oh
were,
yeah.
you were just on the sidewalks competing and traffic was horrible. So then they instituted all these sort of urban changes to make the city more habitable for the folks that are there, not just for the business. So there is this really stark difference when you go back 20 years in São Paulo to today of how one lives in the city and how well, how healthy your life can be even within the boundaries of the city. So I thought that was a great thing. I think that Eric put that, and quite honestly, was for this itinerary, it's super flexible, but these are some areas and some things to do that can break your trip and make a little bit more pleasant, because São Paulo is this, right? It's live. You know what I mean? Think when you went to Philippines and you went to Manila, right? Like for a 20-year-old, the experience is that. You know what I mean? But you would land there like on a Saturday, so you do a couple things, or you land there on a Sunday, I guess. You land on a Sunday. You can do those things, relax, and then start the week, which I think Eric puts a lot of things as far as co-working. I don't know, Eric, if Wesley is going to Brazil to work per se on his laptop. I don't know. Let's open up. What were you thinking, Wes, when you say, Jay, we're going to go into this trip, I don't care, and I'm going to, jump? What were you thinking? Like, what were you imagining on itinerary and things that you would be doing?
I think that you have it a more organized, or you're further ahead in organizing the itinerary and everything than I thought you were.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of thought this is kind of how it would go down. I thought we'd be looking at some properties and, enjoying the views and, I don't know, getting together as friendship, as friends, and trying to make something happen between all of us, and this is kind of exactly it. As a matter of fact, you probably couldn't see it, but I've been taking pictures of the
Okay.
screenshots in the itinerary because I find it real interesting of things that you written down, and I'm really excited.
I love it.
Yeah.
As far as next steps, just to put things like down would be your ticket to Brazil to say, hey, this is the day that I'm landing, right? So then we'll start making reservations, and then you also start making reservations. Um, um, that's essentially. But let's go ahead and continue, Eric. I know I kind of went sideways real quick.
The call was about validation, and I think I think Wes's comments were extremely useful. There might even be too much structure here. I'm one of those people that I like to make really detailed plans and then break them all, sort of thing. So I think we're very flexible there, and wanted to just make sure that we were, using the time as efficiently as we can. But basically, I think after sort of like a relaxing day on Paulista, if that was possible, then we might have just a couple of days where would I like to show you most? It would be our current neighborhood and maybe one future neighborhood. One thing, the current neighborhood is where we have, 3 properties rented, one ready for renovation, and it's sort of like one of a center of business here. So it's a no-brainer. And so we can really go into and see properties and whatever we wanted to do there. And then I chose another neighborhood which is about maybe 3 or 4 miles sort of southwest, down the river. And the reason I chose it is because I can see things happening there. You have a very stark difference between high rises and houses, which means that the high rises have come, but there's still a lot of real estate left to develop. And it's a very beautiful new mixed use develops in this neighborhood, a high-end shopping that's expanding. It's very rare, I think, for shopping malls to be expanding in 2025. In the US, I understand most shopping malls are sort of, half of them may be going away. But so and you also have in this neighborhood the US consulate, which might sound, not that important, but actually
So important.
it's got incredible draw of for hotels. So
It
every
is
morning
super,
I walk in
super
front of the
important.
consulate, and there's 1,000 people lined up, Brazilians line up to have their interviews. And so this area has very few hotel rooms, very high rates, and a lot of very interesting business infrastructure. So it's just a particular neighborhood that I chose that was not the one that we're in that we might have a look at as well. So more than 2 days in Sao Paulo might be a little bit repetitive, and we'd just be looking at other opportunistic sort of neighborhoods. So that's why I chose two: one to show where we are, one to show sort of where we might go from here.
I like it.
Yeah. And then as far as going to the countryside, I can let Jay talk a little bit about that. And it would just be whether or not you want to where you want to sleep. Basically, some people don't like checking in and checking out of hotels every night, so that's why I put it as a day trip. If you're a more adventurer style, then maybe you want to sleep out there as well. So I'll let Jay sort of tell you what he had in mind for his for the Sorocaba countryside part.
Yeah. So the Sorocaba countryside can be just a day trip, or it can be a 2-day trip. It depends on what it's on the schedule and how long is your trip, right? But in Sorocaba, we'll see the city, which is it's a huge, to the extent of being a satellite city of São Paulo. It is pretty big, about 1.5 million people, 1.5 million. And Araçoiaba is right next to, which is where we have a development coming up. So there, I'll be meeting with the architects. I'll be meeting with the contractors. We'll be looking at the ground. Hopefully, there will be some survey, whatever the heck we're going to be doing. This week, we're meeting with the new contractor that will possibly be doing all the work. So there's that happening, as well as, Wesley, if you remember last year when we started the podcast, that I was there scoping the area, right? So I met with
I
business
remember that.
owners, I met with realtors, I played basketball with, my former, basketball colleagues. So there's tons of interesting business opportunities there. And honestly, like-minded people, and even sort of like, hey, if I thought that I wanted to, have a vacation home in a really fancy countryside area that only millionaires have homes, right? Those are some of the things that you have there, as well as incredible food, which is another thing that we definitely want you to share with us, and whoever comes, it can be like, hey, top 5 things that, would love to try in Brazil as far as cuisine. Especially in São Paulo, you can find the best of any cuisine, in like from Italian to Japanese to Portuguese, Spanish. It does not matter, right? You can have incredible, your taste buds are not going to regret going down there at all. If you like to fish, there's also that, right? So after the countryside, which I didn't show many pictures here because I don't think I have it on this computer, then we'll basically go back south, and we'll go back. What is that?
Yeah, it's south.
We're southeast. We go
Yeah, you
back
gotta go
southeast.
north and then south. Yeah, it's weird
Yeah, you go
the way
back
the roads created.
southeast, and then here's starts your sunny days, right? Hopefully more sunny days and beach days. And Caraguatatuba, Wesley, which is a name of probably indigenous origin. When you have these long names, Caraguatatuba, it's a beach town. Eric will talk a little bit more about Caraguatatuba.
Yeah, sure. So on the weekends, I do a lot of exploring and investigating. Look for a beach town that would be right for me, that has the right amount of infrastructure. A lot of times the beaches are beautiful, but they're just really isolated and really small. I think I would feel like it would be a little bit of a hassle. And so I had one of the friends that I mentioned that I would like to introduce you to, Orlando. He had been going to this beach and I'd never heard of it really, never thought of it. And then I went there and I thought, okay, it's fine, whatever. But then I started looking at the macro economic, and started looking at some of the economic factors, and I changed my mind very quickly. Basically, they just created a top tier highway that runs from the Sao Paulo down to the beach to and ends the specific beach very recently. And so as a result, you had 2 lanes, now you had 4. They just created one of the longest tunnels in the world to get there. And so all this infrastructure has been raising the profile of this city, raising real estate prices and that kind of stuff. So that was the first thing. Second thing is that I noticed that the hotel stock is terrible there. Just not very good. Very low rates, very low quality. And I couldn't understand exactly what was going on because I saw it was a lot of people there. A very family-oriented beach as well. And then I discovered there were 2 or 3 big projects about to be started or finished. One of them was actually the first Hilton in the city. And so that was a sort of an interesting sign for me. Then other things, started looking at the shopping. I started asking questions about, what kind of people live here, what's the industry, and discovered that it's a little bit, there's a lot of oil money around in the next town over in Marazias and San Sebastian. So not directly in this town, but there's a lot of there's oil discoveries out in the coast here close by. So that definitely has an influence as well. So basically, sort of all these factors together. I also have a friend who did a little bed and breakfast there as well, I mentioned previously. And so all of these sort of factors came together, and I said, okay, well, I think I'm really interested in this particular area. I like the fact that the real estate prices are reasonable. I like the fact that there's good access to get there. A lot of the beaches are a real pain in the butt to get to, and you can get stuck in traffic. So this one has better access, good, sort of the real estate market is sort of up and coming. There's not much to see there, but I think it's a very interesting place. It's got great potential, and you might like to sort of see it from that standpoint. In around it,
I
you
have
have
no idea what I am doing with the screen, but it looks so cool. I have no clue what I just did.
yeah, I
Can you
know
see?
exactly where yeah, I know exactly where all this is. Yeah, I can see all
No,
the
but
things.
I have no clue how I did what I did. So now I'm
Oh,
just
okay, yeah, yeah.
enjoying whatever the
Yeah, so
computer
if
is
you see
doing is doing on its own.
yeah, so and the canal on the left, that's where Ignacio's house is. And then the little green part on the right, that's where I send you photos of me biking and stuff. So, like you can see in the photo here is that views of mountains. And so what I was just about to say is that there are tourist options close by. So you have, really small natural beaches, and then you have this island off the coast called Ilha Bela that is very high end, sort of tourist experience. So I think what's interesting about this location is it had It's very interesting from an investment standpoint, and it has access to a lot of different tourism areas if you want to make a decision later as far as where you might like to visit. And so I like the location. It's sort of like almost halfway between Rio and Sao Paulo. And so yeah, it's a place I go almost every weekend. I'm planning on buying a house there soon. Hopefully we can get a project going. We received notice that there's another franchise called C Zone that's about to do a development right on the beach that I've been studying. So yeah, that's one place that would be interesting perhaps to take you to. Oh yeah, I love the 3Ds. I mean the GPS views.
I know. And this one is Monte Alegre do Sul, which is another small town. This is one that I spent the New Year's Eve from 23 to 24. I think so. There because friends of the family, they retired there. So it's very small, but it has a lot of pousadas, right? That are what would you say that is a pousada?
Bed and breakfast.
Yeah, it's bed and breakfast, not so much an Airbnb, but it's like really quaint. It has like three or
Yeah.
four. It's part of the Trail of the Waters, right? In São Paulo. So you have waterfalls all over the place. So this is an area that it's like in between, I think, São Paulo and Rio. If you're going down, if you would drive to Rio, that is a nice little spot, and it's super close to São Paulo as well. It's like an hour and a half. So it's a nice little break and super interesting. And there is a deal there on a huge ranch that I also want to see and finally take a look inside. So, but that's just an alternative. Was there more to the itinerary?
No, not really. I mean, I think that the driving distances, I think Sorocaba is like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Caraguá is like maybe like 3 hours by car. And those they're pretty nice, stress free for the most part. Driving, I know sometimes when you go to a foreign country, just the logistics of getting around can be a little bit overwhelming. So this was planned to be very low stress for sure. And then after that, um, this region is really pretty, so we can give you maybe options to go to the mountains if you want to go to the mountains, or maybe to some other really remote sort of like beach towns as well that are really close by. So we can definitely tell you about that later.
So that's the itinerary as far as days to really look at properties, and these are the spaces that we are definitely looking at. There are a couple other alternatives that are in the hopper with some realtors, friends of mine in surrounding cities of developments that are more like put your money there, allow it to appreciate and be delivered and sell it later, like those types of investments for those who are interested, of things that are just like sit and forget it kind of thing. It's a little bit more luck, but in my opinion, less sexy for me. But are interesting things to research and look and different alternatives as well. Meaning, if Wesley, you come, and then I'm sure there are probably going to be hopefully another person tagging along. So if you're really looking into this is for short-term rental, that's our expertise. And but you will get to know the city of São Paulo in these areas that we are mentioning, right? From the lenses of real estate, which in my opinion, it is the most honest lens about a city that you can look at. From what is the city capable of? How is the market? How is the economy? So just from a knowledge standpoint, it's going to be really, really incredible and tons of fun. I don't know why we're being so serious and whatever. It's not serious. It's like we're gonna do business, but there's tons of fun things. There's music, theater. If you're into Backstreet Boys, my sister was just on the show Backstreet Boys last weekend in Sao Paulo.
Yeah, it's always a show.
She wanted to go, and she was like 16, and she could, right? That thing. So now there were the tickets, and she went, and it was like the happiest day of her life almost.
It's funny.
So, all right. So this is the episode about this Brazilian investment trip at the CEO's Grind. CEO's Grind will be in Brazil. We'll probably record a couple episodes together. And it's gonna be fun. We'll see. A gente vai ver que tipo de português. We'll see what kind of Portuguese Wesley is able to learn.
Yeah, I think he'll probably learn iPhone or cell phone Portuguese. I was very Very surprised. The last time I hosted my friends from Los Angeles, they did not need me at all. And it was the first time that I've hosted people that didn't speak the language, they didn't need me because they just showed their phone to everybody. They would just write what they wanted to eat or whatever and just show it to the waiters. They were used to this process. It didn't seem to miss a beat. It was like they were like they've traveled in another city. But yeah, I mean, I think here in most places people speak a word of English or two as well. So it shouldn't be that difficult the way it used to be. How and yeah, so we would be definitely be happy to have you.
Love it. Yeah, love it. I'm excited.
Wonderful, wonderful.
All right. Well, this was the special episode of the CEO's Grind with Eric Cullenberg from StudioHaus, and I am Jay and my
Wesley,
buddy Wesley. You guys have a good day.
good
Thanks so
stuff.
much for the invite.
Thank you so much.